Ask the man who owns one. For decades, that simple, unyielding slogan was absolutely all that needed to be said about a Packard. It wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was an ironclad guarantee of mechanical supremacy. Before Cadillac claimed the mantle of the standard of the world, before Lincoln became the ride of the American elite, there was Packard. This was the majestic machine driven by presidents, European royalty, and the most glamorous Hollywood legends of the silver screen. Packards were never renowned for aggressive, flashy styling. Instead, their reputation was forged in the fires of obsessive engineering, Whisper's quiet 12-cylinder engines, and an unrivaled, uncompromising standard for quality. Yet, after dominating the global high-end luxury market for over half a century, the proud Packard name vanished into the shadows in 1958. How did the ultimate symbol of American automotive excellence fall so far, so fast? Let us take a journey back in time to explore the fatal strategic shifts, the market miscalculations, and the tragic corporate mergers that doomed Detroit's most prestigious marque. To understand the tragedy of its fall, we must first appreciate the absolute brilliance of its rise. In 1899, in the industrial heartland of Warren, Ohio, the Packard brothers, James and William, set out with a singular vision. Legend dictates that James Packard, an electrical engineer by trade, purchased a Winton automobile and found it terribly unreliable. When he offered suggestions for improvement to Alexander Winton, the hot-tempered industrialist dismissively told Packard to build a better car himself, and that is exactly what he did. From the very first single-cylinder Model A, the Packard automobile established a philosophy that placed engineering perfection above mass production. They scrutinized microscopic tolerances. They demanded smooth power delivery. They built mechanical masterpieces that simply did not break down. By 1903, wealthy investors from Detroit lured the company to the Motor City, building a colossal, state-of-the-art factory designed by the legendary industrial architect Albert Kahn. This reinforced concrete marvel became the beating heart of an empire. Here, Packard pioneered the legendary Twin Six, America's first production 12-cylinder engine. It was an engine so incredibly refined and balanced that a coin could stand on its edge on the engine block while it was running. As the Roaring Twenties swept across the globe, Packard entered an undisputed golden era. This was the epoch when Packard undeniably outshone Cadillac in every conceivable metric of prestige. If you were a titan of industry carving up railroads, a head of state commanding a nation, or a leading man in Hollywood, you demanded a Packard. The brand became the global king of luxury. The cars were distinguished by their stately proportions, the iconic ox-yoke grille, and the majestic cormorant hood ornament gracefully slicing through the wind. Wealthy clients would purchase a bare chassis and engine from the factory, sending it to renowned coach builders like Dietrich or LeBaron to craft magnificent, one-of-a-kind bodies. Packard did not need to shout to sell its vehicles. Their dominance was quiet, confident, and incredibly profitable. They consistently outsold all other luxury competitors combined. The world was entirely captivated by the magic of the marque. But the soaring, opulent highs of the 20s were brutally grounded by the devastating reality of the Great Depression. As financial markets collapsed, the clientele for ultra-expensive, custom-bodied luxury cars simply evaporated. To survive the dark days of the 1930s, a radical and highly controversial strategic shift was necessary. Unlike Cadillac, which had the immense financial umbrella of General Motors to absorb its losses, Packard was a fiercely independent automaker. They had to pivot rapidly or face immediate ruin. Their ultimate solution was the introduction of the Packard 120 in 1935. The 120 was undeniably a brilliant piece of engineering, but crucially, it was a medium-priced car. It cost a mere fraction of the traditional, hand-built senior Packards. The public rejoiced, and the 120 sold like absolute wildfire. It effectively saved the company from bankruptcy, keeping the lights on at the massive Detroit factory. But this survival came with a hidden, fatal cost. By pushing lower-priced, mass-produced models into the market, Packard began to fatally dilute its unparalleled prestige. The exclusive, upper-crust club of Packard owners suddenly found themselves sharing their sacred marque with the middle class. The brand's aura of untouchable, elite luxury began to slowly fracture. When the dark clouds of World War II descended, Packard paused automobile production and answered the call of duty with absolute brilliance. They utilized their precision engineering to produce thousands of the legendary Rolls-Royce Merlin aircraft engines, powering the P-51 Mustangs that dominated the skies. They also built massive, roaring V-12 Marine engines for the Navy's PT boats. Their wartime contributions were nothing short of heroic. However, when peace returned and the civilian automotive market reopened, the landscape had fundamentally changed. Packard struggled immensely with crippling post-war material shortages, but even worse was a catastrophic shift in management strategy. Instead of refocusing their efforts on high-end luxury to reclaim the crown from Cadillac, Packard leadership stubbornly continued to prioritize volume over exclusivity. Their post-war designs became bulbous and heavy, earning the unflattering nickname of pregnant elephants from harsh critics. While Cadillac was capturing the imagination of the booming post-war middle class with soaring aerospace tail fins and powerful modern high-compression V8 engines, Packard looked outdated, conservative, and tired. The luxury momentum was entirely lost, and the once mighty sales figures began a terrifying, irreversible downward spiral. By the mid-1950s, the financial situation had become completely dire. In a desperate, 11th-hour bid for survival, Packard leadership agreed to merge with the struggling Studebaker Corporation in 1954. The merger was optimistically pitched to the public and shareholders as the creation of a massive new automotive powerhouse, one that could finally stand toe-to-toe with the Big Three of Detroit. In harsh reality, it was a sudden death sentence. Packard's executives had tragically failed to perform adequate due diligence, completely missing the immense depth of Studebaker's crippling financial ruin and ancient, inefficient factories. Instead of saving Packard, the merger acted as an anchor, dragging the prestigious marque into a bottomless financial abyss. The combined company bled cash at an astonishing, uncontrollable rate. Quality control plummeted drastically, and the once proud engineering department was gutted by severe budget cuts. The final, heartbreaking nail in the coffin came in 1956. The historic Detroit factory, once the bustling, proud, beating heart of American automotive luxury, was shuttered forever. Production of the remaining vehicles bearing the Packard name was unceremoniously moved to Studebaker's aging facilities in South Bend, Indiana. But these were not true Packards. They were hastily disguised, poorly built Studebakers, mockingly and mercilessly dubbed Packard Bakers by the automotive press and the betrayed public. It was a profoundly humiliating end for a brand that had once confidently set the gold standard for the entire world. Finally, in 1958, the last car bearing the legendary Packard name quietly rolled off the assembly line, and then there was only silence. Today, the colossal, decaying ruins of the original Packard plant in Detroit stand as a haunting ghost factory. It is a massive, crumbling monument to the fragile, fleeting nature of industrial empires and the devastating cost of losing one's identity. Yet, despite the tragic corporate demise, the unparalleled legacy of their engineering brilliance stubbornly lives on. It survives in the garages of devoted collectors, in the gleam of restored chrome, and in the whisper of a perfectly tuned 12-cylinder engine. Ask the man who owns one, and he will look you in the eye and tell you, there will never, ever be another car quite like a Packard.